Hello, fellow warriors. Welcome back to another episode of Divided, Survived, and Thriving. Today, we will be talking about turning heartbreaking experiences into breakthroughs. I am Laila Aitken Ali, a divorcee, a divorce coach, and the founder of Split FYI, which is an online community with like-minded and kindred spirits, rich in resources and information for anyone going through divorce or separation. So, as some of you know, I really love interviewing badass humans who have not only survived divorce or separation or breakup, but have come out through the other side, took control of their lives, and rewrote their own story. These conversations are about turning painful process of splitting into a positive force in your life. And I get to host a lot of stories of resilience, passion, grit, familiarity, grace, and survival. Now, without further ado, my guest for today is Paige Wilde. I hope I'm saying that right. Wilhide. Got it. Yes. Okay. Paige Wilhide. Paige is a breakup coach and the founder of Breakup Breakthrough. Paige is on a mission to help people look at their breakups not as failures, but as opportunities for growth, committed to helping them turn heartbreaking experiences into breakthroughs. And so let's find out how. Welcome, Paige.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is my favorite topic, obviously.
Obviously, it's so interesting that you say that because, I mean, for a lot of people out there, they're like, how can breakups be a favorite topic, right? And I'm so excited for you to share your reasoning behind that. And I know that it's a journey, but hopefully it will help inspire others to understand that breakup can actually be your best lesson. So
Yeah.
please share where it came from, that favorite topic.
Well, yeah, it wasn't always that way. It wasn't always my favorite topic, my favorite thing to talk about. In fact, I resisted breakups so much to the point where I would enmesh myself into these relationships with men and be terrified of leaving, like terrified that the relationship was going to end or that they were going to abandon me or that something I would say or do would turn them off and push them away and like just scare them.
Mhm.
So I became very, very good at abandoning myself and giving my identity away to them and allowing for them to take the lead, putting them on a pedestal. There were so many different sort of flavors of it, how it showed up in many relationships. And it wasn't until a really, really devastating heartbreak where my boyfriend admitted to cheating on me that I was like, something has to change. Like something here is off. What's going on? Why do I keep repeating this same kind of pattern over and over again? So I remember, I mean, we can just like, I guess we'll just go there deep and we'll go into my story. I remember after the breakup, I was on my knees hovering over the toilet. I had just eaten like 3 orders of pad thai and I was drunk and just like vomiting, like just inducing vomiting. I'd been binging and purging. I just like I could not feel my body. And I was just trying to like feel something. I was just trying to feel. And I was so disconnected from my body. And in that moment, I was like, I was really scared that I would do something to hurt myself.
Right.
I got to like a rock bottom point, and the only thing I knew how to do, I was living in New York City at the time, and I think it was like 2 a.m, so I couldn't call my mom or anything. I called a suicide hotline, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I need help. I'm not really sure if I'm suicidal, but like I'm scared.
Right.
And they sort of talked me down a little bit. The next morning I called my mom in tears and I was like, Mom, I need help. And oh God, it brings up some tears right now just thinking about it. And so I started going to therapy, and therapy really, really helped me become more mindful. Like the therapist that I went to specialized in mindful eating and healing eating disorders.
Right.
And so I really got a lot out of therapy, and I'd been in therapy for like a few months when my friend told me about this weekend course. And I had still been like thinking about my ex so much, and looking at him on some apps, and he never
Yep.
posted, so it would drive me crazy. I'm like, what is he
Right.
doing? Who is he with? What's his life like?
Oh, and you're
And
creating your
so
stories in your head, right?
it
It's like,
was, oh my gosh, it was in my head, and
mhm.
then the story in my head was creating more stories in my
Oh,
head, and it's
yeah,
just like
yeah.
a record, a
Mhm.
record in my head. Yep. So my friend told me about this weekend course, and I remember I was like, I'll try anything. And I remember sitting in the front row the first day, and the teacher says, what do you want to get out of this weekend? And I turn to the person next to me, and I just start sobbing. And I'm like, I just want to get over my ex.
Oh,
And in that weekend, it totally transformed my life in so many ways. But one of the things that I got that was really potent for me was I was the common denominator in all of my relationships.
right.
I was the one
Mhm.
who was not causing, I would say, but like I was creating
Right.
all of these sort of tumultuous, dramatic, intense relationships, because the way I see it now is like I love drama. Like it
Yeah,
it's a
it's
way
okay
for me to
too.
like feel alive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay too. I love that.
Yeah. Totally.
Same.
So, it was like from that point forward that I made a choice to to make a change in my life for myself so that I can show up more powerfully and more consciously in future relationships. And that was the beginning of my sort of self-discovery, self-personal growth, whatever you want to call it, journey.
Mhm. Right. So, okay, and it's interesting that you're saying I love the topic because actually, when you look at it, it was your biggest teacher, right? Like when you sit
Mhm.
there and you realize that it's sometimes it takes a lot of repetition for you to understand, or anyone to understand that something's not right, or something is good, you're doing really well with something. I mean, it could be on vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So it does make a lot of sense. And it's what's interesting in all of that is it is such a painful experience, right? So people
Mhm.
don't want to, and I get it. They don't want to feel those feels, right? They don't want to look internally. They don't, and they do. There are people who blame themselves, but it's easy just to blame yourself, but not figure out what that is.
Right.
So, right. And so tell me how that journey to figure out what that is, what that was inside you that was attracting that or needing that, and not about drama, because let me tell you, I mean, I'm Italian, so drama is like, it's in my blood, right? I, the drama, I think it makes us who we are, right? There's also
Mhm.
that flair about drama, but there's drama and then there's drama, right?
Yeah.
So, besides that, like what, yeah, explain that journey of figuring out what it was that you was making you attract those kind of situations, or putting you in those situations, you craving those situations.
Yeah. Uh, there were, I mean, there were a number of things,
Okay.
and it sort of, as I went along my path and worked with different teachers, worked with different coaches, went to different programs, like I enrolled in my coaching program where I learned how to be a coach was in the realm of sexuality and desire.
Right.
And so like I really went in all different directions and went on this search, and it peeled off layer by layer.
Right.
So it wasn't like, oh, right, this is the thing. Now I'm healed. Now I can be in a conscious relationship with a man and learn how to receive and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No. So it definitely took time. I would say some of um, the biggest wake ups for me that I saw were first and foremost, when I was very, very young, my sister passed away.
Oh.
So that abandonment wound
Right.
has been running the show my whole life until I saw it, and until I was like, "Oh, let me make this conscious and look at how do I create abandonment so that I can recreate the sort of relationship with my sister
Right.
in my life." And so that was a big one for me. And
Right.
another one was my father is an amazing father, and he worked a lot growing up. So he was never really around. My mom was the one who was always home, like always
Right.
making snacks for us after school, picking us up from school. So I didn't have the presence and the emotional support from my father. And so like I love the man so much. I love him so dearly, and I'm not making him wrong at all. Because he like is such a hard worker and was providing for us in a whole different way. But the
Right.
way that manifested for me was I was very attached and seeking love in emotionally unavailable men
Yeah.
to
That makes
recreate that relationship with my father. So
right.
those are just two examples.
Yeah.
And then, in the ways that they manifested in my life, like I would I well, I had very low self-esteem. Like
Mhm.
all of my confidence and my value was based on what a man thought of me
Right.
and how whether he loved me and whether he said I love you and whether he wanted to have sex with me.
Right.
And all of that, like me relying on somebody else to tell me what I'm worth. Oh, girl, like that is
That's
that's a there's a lot of work to do there.
well, especially if they're not emotionally available. I mean, then you're
Right.
really, really up against a wall and you're not going to get anywhere with that, right?
Nope. You just keep hitting walls. Keep hitting walls. Yeah.
But I mean, what I'm hearing in all of this is that there is no quick fix. And, a lot of people, and I get it, when you go through a breakup, me included, I've had my breakups and I've also had my colossal divorce. So,
Mhm.
I get that. And I've felt those feels like on the ground, the walls are closing in, all these like external things, but like not too scared to go inside. Right.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing in all of this is the timing is not really the timing doesn't really matter. It's not about how long it takes. It's
Right.
about doing the work to go through it, to figure it out, right? So it
Right.
doesn't repeat itself. And by the way, it might repeat itself in a different form and it might come back in a different way, right? But you're prepared, you're ready, you recognize, you understand, what am I doing in this? Well, how can I steer this a different way? Because I will say, and I'm not going to generalize this, but the female male, they have very different emotional capacities.
Mhm.
And that's the only way I can say it without being like, I'm not trying to be, oh, all women are like this and all men are like this. No. But let's just face it, we're constructed differently, right?
Mhm.
A male has different capacity for emotion as a woman. So
Mhm.
we're needy of maybe different or more or whatever than they are. And so you're never gonna, even if a man is emotionally available, you'll never find probably what you need out of a man in that sense, right?
Right, right. One of my teachers always says, you go to your sisters to process, you
Mhm.
go to your partner to play.
Yeah, so
And I
true.
really love that because it's like women connect through communicating verbally, right? It's like, oh, let me tell you about this thing that I'm working through and I want to process, or like, we had this fight and I don't really know what to do about it. Can I get some support? And it's like that's how we get filled up, right? And if we were to go, and I totally hear what you're saying about like, sort of masculine versus feminine communication and energies and all of that. And it's like if we were to go to like this is what I used to do, was like go to my man to practice or like to process, and he'd try to fix it. And I'd get so annoyed. I'm like, I don't need you to fix anything. Like, I just need you to listen to me, like my
Yep.
girlfriends would do. And it's like, you know, maybe like men are just they're built differently,
Mhm.
and they have so much value to offer if we can look at them and accept them for who they are, like how they want to provide and serve and give and nurture, or yeah, like men have their own way of nurturing.
Right.
um but yeah, it's like I just love that kind of quote is like you go to your relationship to play, like it should be fun, and you'll go through the hard times together, but
But
not to
don't look
rely on your partner for everything.
right. And there's a big component of relying on yourself. And I know we had spoken about this. So tell me about that journey, and how important that aspect is, because I know that you've had coaches and you did programs, which I think are so essential and so great, and you had your therapist. So you need the external help, but like, what internally, and I know they've taught you a lot of those things, but like, what did you
Mhm.
do to get to that place where you're processing with yourself?
Yeah, one of the biggest things for me was falling in love with my body,
Mm,
falling in love with myself, and just really having full approval for all parts of my body, like the bumps, the rolls, the wrinkles, like all of it. And that has been definitely a journey for me. Like 100, like I never went to the beach with a bathing suit. Like I would be covered up all the time. I would never be in a bathing suit. And it's like really just in the last couple years that I feel comfortable like being in a bikini on the beach. Like I'm like, wow, let's be out and about. And it really showed up in my sex too.
right.
Like I was always in my head about my body, wondering like, what does he think? Like, is he work? Like, there's hair? Like, does he like the hair? Or like, I should have
Right.
shaved before this. Or, is my like, can he see like the my belly fat or whatever the story was for me.
Right.
Um and and so I was in my head all the time during sex, and so it wasn't pleasurable for me. Like sex was not like my favorite thing to do. I always did it for the other person and to please him, which was like, a running theme in all my relationships was like, do whatever you can for the other person and
Right.
leave yourself behind. So in my breakups, one of the big things that I've realized is pleasure comes from me. It
Right.
doesn't come from the other person.
Hmm.
And if we are like, if we're connected and I'm in my body with this person, I can feel immense amounts of pleasure no matter who the partner is, because it comes from me. And so I've been cultivating this relationship with myself and this relationship with my sex through self-pleasure practices. Because I've been
Right.
single through the whole pandemic and have not been dating and have not been with men
Right.
or
Right.
women. Like I just haven't been with people.
Right.
And so it's been lonely, first of all.
Right.
And in that loneliness, I have found this like deeper relationship and this deeper love of myself and what like the levels of pleasure that my body's capable of.
Which I think is such an awakening, because I think we really push the importancy of that down to, like, on our barometer, down really low, right? We sit there and
Mhm.
we think, well, that's, it is what it is. This is what sex is supposed to be. I mean, I know people who've been in relationships for 10 years who think that, oh, well, we've been together for so long, that's why our sex isn't great. I'm like, there's a lot
Mm.
of mind. What you were saying is not just about your body image, but when you're stuck in your mind and you're not present with the person or with yourself, sexually connected to your body, loving yourself, loving your body, you're, of course, it's going to seep into the sexual connection that you have with anything, with
It'll
anybody.
show up everywhere. It'll show
Any
up
energy.
everywhere, not just in your sex. Your sex is like just a kind of a indicator of
Mm,
how everything else in the relationship is going. So if there's like, if there's something you're not saying in the relationship, the sex is going to feel off. It's going to be disconnected.
right.
So it's like a really good kind of barometer to see, is our sex really connected? That means, we're feeling good right now.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, it's very interesting to look at that.
And there's a lot of, and I think we touched going on this while I was talking to you earlier about it, but the there's a lot of shame around self pleasure. There's a
Mhm.
lot of, this idea that, and for various reasons, it could be because that's what you were taught. That's because it feels awkward. Like,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Or religious reasons, or, there's so many reasons. I mean,
Mhm.
that's for therapy. But wow, how do you start? Like, where do you start? Where can you start? Like, let's give them, like, where can you start? Because everyone thinks it's got to be this like elaborate, amazing, like, we've got to get all these toys, we got to do this, we got to do, no, 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 no. Like,
No.
what can make it normalize it? Like to the point where it's okay. Like it's fine if you want that and explore that, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's such a good question. I love this question. So, there are so many different levels and like sort of entry points for where you can start with self-pleasure. If you are very new to it and it is something that really is confronting for you, I would say just start touching your body like
Mhm.
I'm doing right now. Like, you touch your arms, run your fingers through your hair. Like
Yeah,
pleasure doesn't have to be about orgasms.
yeah,
it can feel it can feel good all the time. Like you can just feel your body and feel really good in your body. So I would take some like massage oil and just give your body a massage. You don't even have to touch your clitoris or
yeah,
you don't have
right.
to go there if you don't want to.
True.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing because we don't touch ourselves like enough. I mean, yeah, sometimes when we
Right.
have pain, when I have a pain, I'm like, oh, I'll rub the pain. But it takes a pain for me to go rub the body. Like, I don't take that time. And I love what you're saying because it's something that you can incorporate even 5 minutes a day. Like it doesn't have to be, I think people think, oh my God, we have to make a big whole ceremony or ritual around, self-pleasure.
No, you could
And
do it at your desk. Like you could do it
yeah,
in the office. It'd be like,
exactly.
like I'm in my head right now. Let me get into my body and just kind of, I like to like tickle my arms. Like I just love that feeling, the really light tickling. And then sometimes I just want to like massage my shoulders, right? And so let your body lead and you get to listen to it.
Right. Really like that. And I think it makes it more doable. And I think once you do start touching yourself, literally, like then it can go into different places and you really feel comfortable with it. It's a habit. And that's why I say
Yeah.
it's like, even like 2 minutes a day or 3 minutes a day, like whatever, or every other day, it doesn't matter. But like you start getting into a habit of touching yourself,
Yeah.
knowing you're there. And it's like, oh, I'm here. I'm good.
Totally. It's
I'm
like
liking it.
I want to be my best partner. It's like, what would I want a partner to do? I would want a partner to hold me and touch me,
Yeah.
and like, and just really drink me up.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
so I'm gonna drink myself up,
Yeah.
right? Like it's that sort of flavor.
That's so
Mhm.
true. I think that, if you have the ability to do what you would want somebody else to do for you, to yourself, then you really aren't looking for that person to fulfill that need, but it's a bonus when they do fill that need, right?
Right.
And you know how to do it for yourself. So I think that journey of, we say this a lot, like date yourself before you date other people when you
Mhm.
out of divorce, especially out of divorce, you're just like, give yourself some time to process it, even though it hurts. And sometimes that quick fix is, I remember thinking, oh, it was after pregnancy and I was, thinking, oh my God, I feel like a cow. I mean, milking and there's this and my
Mm.
body's like you, like it's like my body's on all this. And to some people that was really voluptuous and beautiful. I mean, I finally had boobs. I was like, damn, I finally had really big boobs.
You're
And
like,
I
this
was
is
like,
what this is like.
and no one's
Cool.
touching them. Like, what's going on? I missed that boat. Um, but but we in our minds again, it was like, who would want to touch me in this? And oh, I feel gross. And oh no, like that mind chatter, we can be so hard on our bodies. And you don't even need an eating disorder,
Mhm.
or a historical eating disorder or issues with your body to feel that way, especially after breakup,
Yeah.
because that exasperates it. We don't feel good enough. What happened? Am I not pretty enough? Am I not good enough? Is my body not right? Like, what did he not like?
Right.
Like, because you're vulnerable. You've been exposed to somebody, and all of a sudden that exposure is gone, and you're like, well, what was it about me? And our
And we're so
go-to,
quick to
yeah,
go there.
yeah, and our
Yeah,
go-to is the body. It's like
Mhm.
really is women, I think, mostly, I would
Mhm.
think. But I mean, who knows? I can't speak for that, but we do often think it's like, is it my looks? Is my body? And then when we find out that they're dating someone else, we always want to know, what do they look like? What do they like? It's
We
like,
compare. We go right into comparison.
so
Yeah.
how do you not compare? Like that is, how, like, where do you get to that? First of all, you said I searched social media and I'm like, oh, or, I was searching for what he was posting. And I'm like, that obviously you tell everyone, no, no, don't do it. Don't do
Mhm.
it. It's going to
Ugh.
exasperate everything you're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, as hard as no contact is, that is step one. Like, it is step one to cut off that contact. It's like, rip that Band-Aid off, take all your booze out of the pantry, throw it away so that you're not even tempted, right? Like, it's
Right?
that kind of boundary to set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so true.
Mhm.
And also the comparing. So like back to that, it is
Right.
and in loving yourself. I mean, there's not one quick fix of that either, right? So and it sounds like you've had a journey on that loving
Yeah,
your body.
totally.
I think a lot of women can relate to that. A lot.
Comparison is such a big one. It's a really big one. And we're so quick to make it mean something about us. Like,
Hmm.
if he cheated, it's like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah,
Where did I step out? Where did I scare him away? Where was I too much? Where was I not enough? Right? So, like, whatever the story is, we make it mean something about ourselves. So
right,
first and foremost is like knowing that it's their stuff. Like, whatever's going on that side of the street is not in your territory.
right,
Like, your territory is to take care of your side of the street. And
right.
then I think social media really does a disservice, because what we do on social media is we're comparing our unfiltered lives to everyone else's filtered lives.
Totally. A hundred
And
percent.
it just feels awful. It feels awful because you can't compare yourself to a curated,
Nope.
perfected, manicured version of somebody else.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
like, it's just not even worth it to go into comparison. And
No.
just giving yourself, like, anytime someone is going into their head about their ex, or going into a story about their ex, or who their ex is dating, I'm like, what can we do to bring you pleasure right now in this moment? To bring you back to your body, to bring you back to yourself, to breathe, to pause, to take a second, and to release that story.
Right. And so if it's hard for someone to touch themselves because they're just not accustomed to it, I mean, would you advise that they go get massages and, I mean, I know we're in COVID, but we're coming out
We're
and,
coming out. Yeah.
pre-COVID, and post-COVID. So let's just, put a gap in between that part. But like, after, I mean, advise them to try, like, I remember for me, reflexology was amazing. And that was a new discovery. And it was something that grounded me because I felt one of the things I didn't feel was grounded.
Yes.
Just my feet were not on the ground at all, right? And I was like, I'm all over the place. I'm up here. It's like up
Mhm.
here, in your head and the emotions and just all of that. So that helped me, but having that touch was, maybe it's like a gateway, and it opens up that door for then you to start, because then I noticed that I started doing that to myself.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah. I think,
Yes.
and it is something that, because you have all sorts, I come from a very affectionate background. My mom's Italian. I mean, come on, my dad's from Pakistan. So I have, all my life I've been always kissed and cuddled and hugged, and, it's not
Yeah.
foreign to me, the touch. And, but I do realize there's a lot of friends and a lot of people I know, clients, that just they don't have it in them. They
Mhm.
don't have it in them. So, and I do say, it's like, you got to start. And I definitely didn't feel like touching myself after, when I felt like crap. So it was like, even though I have that in me, I still didn't feel like it. So that the
Yeah.
reflexology was like, it was like a gateway for me to be like, oh, and then I started doing it to myself. And then you're like, oh, and then you
Oh,
learn.
that's so cool. I love that. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that example, because that's
Right.
great advice. Is like, it's what I tell people is do whatever I give, whatever kind of quote advice someone else gives that you hear, do it within your range. Like, take it on and do it within what is comfortable for you, maybe even pushing your comfort zone a little bit. But you don't want to, like, totally blow yourself out and go full out of range and, like, get the toys, like you were saying, and go
Yeah.
right in there. Like, if you've never done that before and you're not comfortable with it.
Well, no, I mean, I have, a good friend, and I'm not going to throw her under the bus because I won't even mention her name, but it was hilarious because she, she was like, right. I'm going to get everything. And then she's like, I don't even know what to do with all this stuff. And I don't even know how to make myself want to start using all of these things. Right. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's quite comical too, because there are a lot of things out there that you kind of need a PhD to even use. And, it's
Girl.
overwhelming because that experience alone can make you feel like, am I a loser because I don't know how to use any of this stuff?
Mhm. Totally. Well, my just in my like background of training, I threw out my vibrator like after learning about the how like really sensitive the clitoris is. It's 8,000 nerve endings.
Wow.
It is the only a human organ that is designed for pleasure. Like there is no other purpose to the clitoris other than pleasure.
Okay.
And
Right.
it's got double the amount of nerve endings as a comparable part of a man. So it
Unbelievable.
is, yeah, it's wild. And
Right.
so vibrators actually like overstimulate those nerves and can numb you over time.
Right. Interesting. That is
Mhm.
so, I totally feel that. I get it. I mean, I never understood that whole, like, I mean, I get it for um, it kind of creates an environment, right? That kind of creates, okay, like there's something there.
Yeah.
And it aids you. But I get that. Like it's too overstimulating sometimes. I mean, I'm not an
Mhm.
expert at those, but I get it. I
Yeah,
completely.
I mean, I'm not an expert either, honestly. I have like crystal wands. Like I use very minimal toys. I really use like my finger. Like that is my
And it's
biggest
being
tool.
okay with that. I love that. And I
Mhm.
actually, and this is, and I really, if anybody who's listening to this really has the key takeaway, okay, for that is if you are trapped and don't feel like you can do that to yourself, like everybody can, it's
Mhm.
starting somewhere small, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it helps working with someone like you, like honestly, who normalizes it and the experience, because sometimes you do need that. I think people feel very, very vulnerable talking to, even though women talk a lot, they feel
Mhm.
vulnerable talking and exposing themselves that way to other women or friends or whatever, because they're ashamed to say, like, I know a girlfriend came to me and was like, I haven't had an orgasm ever. I mean, this
Yeah.
was, 10 years ago, but still. And I remember thinking, oh my God, you're in your 30s, you've never had an orgasm. She's had multiple sex partners, but she's never had an orgasm. So it happens and they're
It's
ashamed of it.
more common than we talk about. Yeah.
Right. And they're ashamed of it though. Like, so for her to come to me was like, it took a while. It wasn't like, okay. And not that I had 100% answers, but she wanted to just share. She's like,
Yeah.
I have never, oh my God, am I crazy? Or is it not? I'm like, this is really normal. I mean, happens a lot. And
Mhm.
it also goes back to being in your head. Like,
Yeah.
how are you going to have an orgasm or have pleasure if you're in your head and you're worried about how you feel, or what is this, or is this right, or am I doing something wrong? A lot of it is the state of mind, right?
Yep. Pleasure doesn't happen here. Like it doesn't happen up in your head. It happens in your body
Right.
and
You get
being
a life.
connected with it. Mhm.
Totally. I agree. And so that's part of the journey. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not like, okay, here's some toys and here's some this and here's your hand and this is how you do it. No, like this needs to be sorted out. The head needs to be
Totally.
sorted
Yeah, and I relate to it as like a meditation practice for me. Is like even when I don't want to do it, I do it. because
out.
it's like for me, so my practice is I set a timer for 15 minutes
Mhm.
and it's 12 minutes of peaking is the practice, so it's just stroking very light strokes up and down,
Right.
and then there's 3 minutes of come down, so it's like bringing yourself back down and grounding yourself and giving more firm grounding pressure.
Right.
And there's like so many millions of ways to do that. That's just this is what I've learned from my teacher. And and I yeah, that's like I do 15 minutes a day and I relate to it like it's a meditation practice. And some
So,
days I don't want to. Some days I'm feeling like really numb. Some days I'm feeling really turned on. Some days I'm feeling like a
right.
little bit of like pins and needles
Right.
sensation. Yeah, it just like really allows it is it's a it's really made me a better coach
Right.
because what it allows me to do is hold more sensation in my body. So when
Mhm.
someone comes to me and they're in a really emotional place and they're really in a down and they're feeling it and they're going through it, I can hold space for that.
Right.
and allow them to feel all of the things they're feeling. And I don't let, it doesn't really affect me as much
Right.
because I can hold it. So that's just one of the things it's done for me, but self-pleasure is a miraculous
It really
tool.
is. Well, it's also helped you survive like the COVID lockdown, not being able to date or,
Oh, thrived. I've been thriving with my self-pleasure
so
practice.
great. I love that. I mean,
I'm ready to date again now. Like I'm coming out of it. I'm like, all right, let's get on the apps again. Let's go meet some men. Let's go talk to some boys.
yes, let's do it. I love that. Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
honestly, this conversation I think everybody should be listening to. I think that we, if anything, really normalize that journey, that sexual journey, but realize that you have to be gentle on yourself when you're
Yeah.
breaking up, and there's always lessons to be learned, and use that time to do that. Like, you're only going to get better the next time around
Yeah.
when you do that, right? And don't blame yourself for everything.
No.
What I heard the whole time.
No.
No
It
way.
is not, it's not your fault.
No.
It's not your fault. And it's incredibly empowering to take responsibility where you can.
Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
100%. It always takes two, you know,
Yeah,
and
totally.
that's just the way it is. And just know that, and on top of your head, it's like, yes, I can't say that I'm in the clear, but I also can't say that I can take all of the responsibility. There's a happy medium, but that opportunity to learn is really important about yourself, your body, your sexuality,
Oh
your
my
everything.
God.
I mean,
I would not be the woman I am today without my breakups.
yeah.
Like without ending these relationships and, whether it was me ending them or the other person ending them or mutual ending, whatever, is like after every single ending, I became a better version of myself.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's hard to see it when you're going through it. You
100%.
don't feel like you're the best version of yourself, and that's okay. But just know that when you get through that moment, we all have to allow ourselves that moment, but you definitely are. Like, you just learn from every experience for sure.
Yeah.
It's a hard lessons of life, I guess, what we call it, but can be beauty in it.
It's
Well,
painful. It's
I'm
painful.
so grateful that you shared, your
Mm,
experiences, and openly shared, the sexual experiences. And I hope that it
yeah.
helps inspire others to go find their pleasure. I think you guys
Oh, I
all should
hope
start today.
so.
Where can, and I think, this is very important, people need some support and help and coaching through all of this. Where's the best place they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Breakup Breakthrough. And my website is breakupbreakthrough.com. You can come over there. I do monthly workshops. I have an online breakup support community. It's a
Amazing.
membership community. And then I do one-on-one coaching as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, I'll put that in the notes, and thank you so much.
This was absolutely a pleasure.